How can you thank God for healing while your body is still telling you that nothing has changed? That is the question pain keeps asking. You have prayed, you have placed the matter before God, yet when you stand up, the pain is still noticeable. When you lie down, it is still there. Every sensation seems to demand a verdict. Well, what are you going to believe now? Now notice, faith does not require you to become dishonest. If something hurts, you know it hurts. You do not have to tell somebody, I cannot feel a thing, while you are gritting your teeth just to get through the sentence. That is not confidence. That is acting a part, and you are not on a stage. Somebody says, but if I admit the pain is still there, haven't I denied my prayer? No. Describing your present experience is not the same as deciding that your present experience has the final word. You can say the pain is still present, but God is still faithful. Both statements can be honest in the same moment. One tells what your body is reporting. The other tells where your trust is resting. You see, symptoms provide information, and that information may require attention, patience, help, or care, but symptoms do not have to choose your posture toward God. Pain may influence what you can do today, but it does not have to dictate whether you pray, whether you trust, or whether you give thanks. That is the distinction we must keep before us. Thanksgiving is trust in God. It is not theater before people. Say that with me. Thanksgiving is trust, not theater. Thank God you do not have to manufacture a feeling. You do not have to exaggerate a result. You do not have to hide a tear. You do not have to impress the person sitting beside you. You can be honest about the pressure and still refuse to let the pressure become your God. Are you listening? Honesty and faith are not enemies. You can acknowledge the battle without bowing to the battle. You can admit that the feeling has not changed while choosing where your confidence will remain. So say it plainly. I can be honest and I can still trust. Again, I can be honest and I can still trust. Now then, if thanksgiving is not pretending that the symptoms have disappeared, what is it? What are you actually thanking God for before visible change comes? That is the distinction we must examine next. What then are you thanking God for before visible change comes? You are thanking Him because your confidence is in His character, not in your ability to produce a sensation. The movement is simple. Ask, trust, thank, and rest. Say it aloud. Ask, trust, thank, and rest. You ask because you have a real need. You trust because you have placed that need before God. You thank because God remains faithful even while you wait. And you rest because you refuse to carry through fear what you have already entrusted through prayer. Now notice thanksgiving is directed toward God. It is not a report written about your body. If someone asks, does it still hurt? And it still hurts. You may answer honestly, yes, I still feel it. But you do not have to stop there. You can add, and I am continuing to trust God. Those statements are not fighting each other. One acknowledges the present condition. The other declares the present direction of your heart. Somebody says, well, if I mention the pain, haven't I canceled my faith? No, faith is not so fragile that one honest sentence destroys it. You cancel honesty when you claim a sensation you do not have. You surrender hope only when you decide that what you presently feel is all you can ever expect. There is a difference between describing pain and enthroning pain. There is a difference between acknowledging fear and letting fear lead you. There is a difference between telling the truth and treating the present moment as the final verdict. You do not have to raise your voice until the windows shake. You do not have to manufacture excitement. You do not have to persuade everybody in the room that something has happened which you have not yet experienced. God is not impressed by exaggeration, and people are not helped by performance. Be plain, be sincere. You might say, Father, This pain is still troubling me and I need your help. Yet I thank you that I am not facing it alone. I trust your care, your wisdom, and your faithfulness. Show me the next step and help me walk through it. Do you see the balance? Nothing was embellished. The difficulty was not hidden, but neither was gratitude abandoned. Name the difficulty plainly, then turn toward God deliberately. Do not magnify the symptom and do not manufacture a result. Tell the truth about what you feel and tell the truth about whom you trust. Thanksgiving is not denial, it is direction. Thanksgiving is not pretending, it is trusting. Thanksgiving is not a performance, it is a posture. Thank God you may be truthful about your body and confident toward God at the same time. Now then, once you have asked sincerely, why does thanksgiving follow? Why not keep asking until you feel different? Because thanksgiving marks a change in posture. It carries you from making the request to entrusting the request. It becomes the bridge from asking to resting. Asking is not a failure of faith. You ask because you need help and you know where to turn. Dependence is not weakness when your dependence is upon God. Prayer begins by bringing the matter honestly before Him. But now notice what happens after you ask. There comes a point of decision. Will you keep carrying the outcome as though everything still depends upon your worry, or will you place it in God's hands? That is where thanksgiving enters. Thanksgiving says, Father, I have brought this to you, and now I entrust it to you. It does not say every sensation has changed. It says my posture has changed. I am no longer approaching you as though you have not heard me. Suppose you brought me a heavy case and said, would you carry this for me? I take it, and you thank me. But before I can take 2 steps, you grab the handle again. Then you pull it open to see whether the burden is still inside. Then you ask me once more, are you sure you'll carry it? Well, who is carrying it? Both of us are wrestling over the handle. That is what many people do inwardly. They give the matter to God in prayer, then seize it again through worry. They turn it over, then inspect it. They release it, then try to control the timing, the feeling, and the result. Their lips have finished praying, but their minds are still wrestling over the handle. Rest means you stop wrestling. Does not mean you become careless. It does not mean you ignore what requires attention. You can remain watchful, receive care, ask for wisdom, and take responsible action. Rest is not inactivity. It is the end of the inward attempt to force the outcome. Somebody says, but I must do something. Yes, you have a part. Your part is to be honest, obedient, attentive, and responsible. Your part is not to make tomorrow arrive today. Your part is not to manufacture a feeling so you can reassure yourself that prayer worked. Ask yourself plainly, have I been praying for help, or have I been using prayer to control the result? Have I placed this before God, or am I still trying to manage every detail through fear? Do not condemn yourself. Just release the handle. Make the request clearly. Release the outcome. Continue in gratitude. Say it, I will ask clearly, release the outcome, and continue in gratitude. That thanksgiving is not decoration placed at the end of a prayer. It is the turning point. It carries you from asking into resting. But if you miss that turning point, something else begins. You ask again because you are afraid. Then you check again because you are uncertain. And when nothing seems different, the fear grows stronger. That is how prayer slips into the cycle of begging, checking, and renewed fear. Here is how the cycle works. Fear rises, so you make the request again. The moment you finish, you check your body to see whether anything changed. If the sensation remains, alarm increases. That alarm sends you back to prayer not with fresh confidence, but with a growing suspicion that perhaps you were not heard the first time. Then you ask again. You check again. You worry again. And before long, prayer has become part of the machinery of fear. Now notice, the problem is not that you use many words. It is not wrong to speak with God more than once about something that matters. The question is, what is driving those words? You may return to God because you desire fellowship. You may need wisdom for the next step. You may need strength for this hour. You may need to pour out fear honestly and receive fresh peace. That is relationship. But anxious repetition says, I must ask again because I do not believe I was heard. I must say it better. I must feel it more strongly. I must somehow make God respond. That is not fellowship. That is fear trying to use prayer as a control lever. Suppose you ask a trusted friend, will you meet me at the door at 10 o'clock? Your friend says yes. 2 minutes later you ask, will you meet me? Then you send another message. Then another. At 9:59, you are still asking. Your friend may finally say, I answered you the first time. Now, that is a simple illustration, but it exposes the habit. The answer never gets an opportunity to settle your heart because you keep reopening the question. And symptom checking can do the same thing. You pray, then turn immediately inward. Is it gone? Is it less? Do I feel different now? If the answer is no, your peace falls with it. Without realizing it, you have made the body the final authority over whether you may rest. Listen carefully. Paying responsible attention to symptoms is one thing. Demanding that every sensation reassure your faith is another. Your body can inform your next practical step without governing your relationship with God. So what interrupts the cycle? Thanksgiving. Before fear sends you back around again, stop and turn your attention toward God. You might say, Father, I still feel the pressure, but I thank you that I can bring it to you. Thank you for hearing me, staying with me, and giving me wisdom for the next step. That sentence does not deny the symptom. It denies fear the right to direct the next moment. Recognize the cycle without shame. Then interrupt it without drama. Do not beg again merely because fear rang the bell. Answer fear with honest gratitude. Say it, I will not feed the cycle, I will turn toward God. And when you turn toward God, the question changes. It is no longer, am I praying well enough? It becomes, who is the one I am trusting? That is where our attention must go next. Once attention turns inward, the questions begin multiplying. Did I say the right words? Did I believe strongly enough? Was I certain enough? Did one fearful thought spoil the whole prayer? Before long, you are no longer looking toward God. You are grading yourself. Now notice what has happened. Faith has been turned into a performance review. You inspect every word, every emotion, every moment of confidence, trying to determine whether you achieved a passing score. And because feelings change, your score changes every few minutes. At breakfast, you think your faith is strong. By noon, the pain speaks up, and now you think your faith has dropped 20 points. By evening, you're trying to measure it again. If some people check the weather as often as they check their faith, they would never leave the window. You see, relentless self-examination makes confidence depend upon producing a flawless internal condition. But no one maintains perfect feelings every hour of every day. Trust is not the absence of every troubling thought. Trust is the choice to keep turning toward the one upon whom you depend. Your confidence is not that you prayed beautifully. Your confidence is that God hears sincere prayer. Your confidence is not that you never felt afraid. Your confidence is that fear does not alter God's character. Your confidence is not that you understand every part of the process. Your confidence is that God can sustain you, guide you, and remain faithful while you take the next step. Somebody says, then personal responsibility does not matter. I did not say that. You have a part. Be honest. Ask sincerely. listen for wisdom, receive appropriate help, take responsible action, correct what needs correcting. But responsibility is response. It is not control. Your responsibility is to respond faithfully. It is not to control the timing, manufacture the result, or maintain a perfect emotional temperature. This is where thanksgiving changes the subject. Fear asks, how well am I believing? Thanksgiving asks, who is God to me in this moment? Fear studies your performance. Thanksgiving remembers His character. Before you mention the desired result again, thank God for who He is. Thank Him for hearing you. Thank Him for staying near when you feel weak. Thank Him for wisdom when you do not know the next step. Thank Him for strength sufficient for the present moment. Say it with me. My confidence is not in a perfect performance. My confidence is in God. Again, I do not have to manufacture perfect faith. I can turn toward a faithful God. Thank God, that lifts a burden. You can stop staring at yourself long enough to trust Him. And when confidence becomes steadier, you can return to God without panic. But that raises an important question. When is returning to prayer genuine persistence? And when is it only anxious repetition wearing religious clothes? So should you pray about the matter again, or should you simply continue giving thanks? The answer is not found merely by counting how many times you prayed. It is found by examining why you are returning. Persistent faith keeps turning toward God. It remains receptive. It seeks wisdom. It receives strength for the day. It refuses to let delay harden into despair. Persistence says, I am still here, Father. I still trust you. Teach me what I need to know and help me take the next faithful step. Anxious repetition does something different. It restates the request because fear insists the earlier prayer did not count. It says, perhaps God did not hear me. Perhaps I did not say enough. Perhaps I must begin the whole thing again. Now notice, the words may sound nearly identical, but the posture is different. One prayer continues a relationship. The other tries to reopen a case that fear will never permit to close. Ask yourself 3 plain questions. Am I coming to enjoy fellowship with God and draw near to Him? Am I seeking fresh wisdom for what I face today? Or am I merely checking whether He heard me yesterday? That will help you locate what is happening in your heart. Somebody says, then I must never make the request again. No, do not turn this teaching into another rule that torments you. A renewed request can be honest and appropriate. Circumstances may change. New needs may arise. Your understanding may grow. You may need to speak plainly about fresh fear or pain. But do not make repetition into a ritual for quieting panic for 30 seconds. If you pray only to obtain a momentary feeling of relief, fear will soon demand another prayer, then another, then another. You will be talking constantly but never settling anywhere. Thanksgiving can accompany every conversation. You can ask with thanksgiving. You can listen with thanksgiving. You can lament with thanksgiving. You can wait with thanksgiving. Gratitude does not forbid further prayer. It keeps further prayer rooted in trust. You might say, Father, this is still difficult today. I need wisdom for today. Thank you that I can come to you again without fear. Thank you that your faithfulness is not changed. Do you hear the difference? That is not begging for yesterday's prayer to become valid. That is living in relationship today. Remember this, persistence keeps company with God. Anxiety keeps reopening the case. Say it aloud. I will keep company with God. Let your continued prayer draw you nearer, not drive you deeper into self-inspection. Return for fellowship, return for wisdom, return for strength, and let thanksgiving preserve the trust with which you return. But now another fear arises. If I tell God or anyone else that the symptoms continue, have I weakened that trust? No. We must learn how to tell the truth without giving fear the last word. Pain can be severe. It can wear you down, interrupt your sleep, frighten you, and make ordinary conversation difficult. We must not place a spiritual costume over that reality and call the costume faith. If you are hurting, you may say, I am hurting. If you are tired, you may say, I am tired. If you are frightened, you may say, I feel frightened. Those are descriptions of what you are experiencing. They do not have to become declarations of who you are or predictions of everything that will follow. Now notice the difference. I am experiencing pain names a present symptom. Pain owns me, defines me, and will determine my whole future, gives that symptom an authority it does not deserve. The same is true of fear. Expressing fear is not the same as obeying fear. You can say, I am afraid, and then add, but fear will not make every decision for me. You can bring fear into the light without placing it on the throne. How do you speak honestly and faithfully? Use 3 simple movements. First, describe what is happening. Do not exaggerate it, and do not hide it. This still hurts. I am discouraged. I do not know what this means. Second, ask for the help you need now. Give me wisdom. Help me know what to do next. Strengthen me for this day. Lead me toward the right support. Third, close by turning toward gratitude and trust. Thank you that I can speak honestly with you. Thank you that I am not alone. I place this day in your hands. That is candid, that is relational, and that is faith without pretense. Use the same honesty with your family. Use it with trusted spiritual support. Use it with those providing care. Religious language should not prevent people from understanding what you are actually experiencing. If you need help, say so. If something has changed, report it plainly. If you have questions, ask them. Somebody says, but I want everyone to know I have faith. Well, then let them see faith expressed through truth, humility, patience, and trust. You do not need a forced declaration to impress anyone. And never use such declarations to shame another person whose symptoms continue. Their pain is not an invitation for your judgment. Faith does not require a person to smile while suffering so that everybody else feels comfortable. Faith makes room for tears and still turns toward God. Say this with me, God is near to me in this moment. Notice what you did not say. You did not claim a sensation you cannot honestly report. You affirmed where you are placing your trust right now. Again, I can tell the truth, ask for help, and remain thankful. Thank God that gives you language for the difficult moment. But language must become practice. When symptoms demand your attention tomorrow morning or in the middle of the night, you need a simple rhythm you can follow. Let us make Thanksgiving practical enough to use right there. When the hard moment comes, you need something simple enough to remember before fear starts running the meeting. Here is a 5-step rhythm. Pause, acknowledge, remember, thank, and take the next responsible step. First, pause. That does not mean suppress the sensation or act as though you did not feel it. It means you refuse to let the first flash of alarm determine everything that follows. Stop for a moment, breathe, turn your attention toward God before panic builds its argument. Second, acknowledge. Say plainly what is happening. This pain is present. I feel frightened. I am disappointed that I do not feel better this morning. Do not exaggerate it. Do not condemn yourself for noticing it. You are telling the truth, not surrendering your future. Third, remember. Remember whom you trusted when you prayed. Remember that you did not place the matter into empty space. You brought it to God. Remember the strength that has carried you through earlier hours. Remember that His character did not change during the night simply because your sensation did not change by morning. Fourth, thank. Be specific. Thank you for being near. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for wisdom, care, strength, and help. Thank you that I can take this day one step at a time. You are not inventing evidence of bodily change. You are giving thanks for God's faithfulness in the middle of the present reality. Fifth, take the next responsible step. That step may be rest. It may be following treatment. It may be contacting someone for support, keeping an appointment, completing one necessary task, or simply getting dressed and continuing your day. Do not demand a heroic action. Take the next wise one. Imagine you wake after praying the night before and the same pain greets you before your feet touch the floor. What do? Pause. I will not let panic speak first. Acknowledge the pain is still here and I feel discouraged. Remember, I entrusted this matter to God and He is still with me. Father, thank you for your presence and for wisdom today. Then act. What is the next responsible step? You see, that entire rhythm can happen in a minute. It is not complicated. You do not need special surroundings or impressive words. You just need to practice it. Say the 5 steps with me. Pause, acknowledge, remember, think, act. Again, pause, acknowledge, remember, think, act. Thank God now Thanksgiving is not merely an idea you admire. It is something you can do when the pressure rises. But one difficult morning is not always the whole journey. Sometimes the waiting stretches across days and ordinary responsibilities continue. So next we must learn how this rhythm works when patience, treatment, expectation, and daily life all have to travel together. Waiting does not force you to choose between trusting God and receiving appropriate care. That is a false choice. Faith can pray and faith can ask questions. Faith can give thanks and faith can accept help. Faith can rest in God while taking the next responsible step. Somebody says, if I really trust God, shouldn't I stop treatment? Do not make gratitude prove itself by abandoning wisdom. Thanksgiving does not require you to hide symptoms, disregard guidance, or pretend you no longer need assistance. If something changes, report it honestly. If you do not understand, ask. If support is available, receive it with humility. Practical care can become one of the places where trust is expressed. You can pray for wisdom before an appointment. You can listen carefully. You can consider what you are told. You can follow an appropriate plan while continuing to place your confidence in God. Responsible action is not the enemy of faith. Fear and pretense are the enemies we are confronting. Now notice, waiting is seldom neat. Progress may feel gradual. One day may seem better, another harder. Sometimes you notice change and sometimes you do not. Impatience then whispers, if this were working, everything would already be settled. But Thanksgiving brings you back from the entire uncertain future to the grace needed for the present step. You do not have to manufacture certainty about next month in order to walk faithfully today. Ask, what help do I need now? What wisdom do I have now? What responsible action belongs to today? Then give thanks for today's provision. Do not isolate yourself behind religious language. Tell trusted people the truth. You can say, I am still hurting and I am still trusting. You can say, I need help today and I remain grateful. You can say, I do not know how long this process will take, but I will not walk through it alone. Those sentences belong together. Pain and trust can be spoken in the same breath. Treatment and thanksgiving can travel the same road. Patience and expectation can live in the same heart. Say this calmly with me. Father, thank you for guiding me through the process. Again, thank you for wisdom for each step, strength for each day, and people who can help me. We thank God for the outcome we desire, but we also thank Him for guidance along the way. We do not wait to become grateful until every question is answered. Thank God you do not have to divide your life into a spiritual part and a practical part. Trust can shape both. Yet even when the mind understands that, the emotions may still feel heavy. You may know the principle and still feel no enthusiasm at all. So what do you do when gratitude does not feel natural? That is the pressure we must face next. Gratitude does not always begin as a feeling. Sometimes it begins as a deliberate turn of the heart. You may not feel cheerful. You may not feel energetic. You may not feel anything except tired. Yet you can still choose one honest sentence of thanks. Now notice, trust is a posture before it is an emotion. If you wait until gratitude feels natural, you may wait through the very moment when you need it most. But that does not mean you must manufacture excitement. Somebody says, my words feel weak. Then bring weak words. Sincerity matters more than volume. God does not require you to sound triumphant while your heart is weary. A quiet thank you for staying with me may be more honest than 100 loud sentences spoken for the benefit of everybody else. You see, tears and thanksgiving can occupy the same prayer. Lament and trust can meet in the same conversation. You may tell God, I am disappointed, I am afraid, I do not understand. Then after a silence you may add, but I am grateful that I can bring all of this to you. That is not contradiction, that is relationship. Imagine someone who has endured a difficult night. Morning comes, but relief does not. They sit on the edge of the bed with no speech prepared and no strength for a long prayer. All they can say is, Father, thank you for helping me face this day. Nothing dramatic happens in that moment. The room looks the same. The body may feel the same. Yet fear did not get the only word. The person stands, follows the care that is needed, accepts help where it is offered, and continues through the morning one step at a time. Do not despise that small act of gratitude. Small does not mean false. Quiet does not mean powerless. One truthful sentence can redirect the inner conversation before fear fills every available space. Then later, when fear speaks again, give thanks again, not as a ritual to force an outcome, and not as a promise that emotion or sensation must change on your timetable. Give thanks because you are practicing where your attention will rest. Little by little, gratitude refuses fear total control. It does not erase every difficult feeling. It prevents those feelings from becoming the only voice you hear. So use your own voice now. Do not copy someone else's excitement. Offer one sentence that is true for you. Perhaps, thank you for being near. Or, thank you for strength for this hour. Or simply, thank you that I am not alone. Say it naturally. Say it honestly. Say it without performing. Thank God, exhausted people can practice this. Discouraged people can practice it. You can practice it. And from that quiet thanksgiving, take the next step. Gratitude is not meant to leave you sitting still beneath the burden. It prepares you to rise and live responsibly from the prayer you have prayed. Resting in God does not mean putting your whole life on hold until your body gives you perfect reassurance. If you wait for every sensation to become quiet before you live, then the symptom is still setting the schedule. Ask yourself what becomes possible when I stop spending every moment begging, checking, and grading my faith. Perhaps you can follow the care plan without turning every step into a spiritual argument. Perhaps you can make the call you have postponed. You can accept help instead of trying to prove that you need none. You can complete one manageable responsibility, or you can lie down and rest without accusing yourself of failure. Now notice, the next faithful action will not look the same for everybody. For one person, courage means getting up. For another, wisdom means sitting down. For one, it means reaching out. For another, it means setting a needed boundary. The question is not what will impress people. The question is, what is the next responsible step? Your action is not a technique for forcing healing. You are not bargaining with God, I did something bold, so now you must make something happen. No. You act because fear is no longer permitted to organize the whole day. And do not confuse courageous action with reckless proof-seeking. You do not have to endanger yourself to demonstrate belief. You do not have to ignore reasonable limits, reject needed assistance, or attempt something harmful so others will call you faithful. Wisdom does not weaken trust. Wisdom gives trust a responsible form. Return to the rhythm. Pause, acknowledge, remember, think, and act. Pause before panic takes charge. Acknowledge what is true. Remember whom you trust. Thank God without pretending. Then take the next wise step. That final step gives outward expression to the trust already spoken in thanksgiving. It may appear ordinary, but ordinary obedience is still obedience. Taking medication as directed, accepting a ride, preparing a simple meal, attending an appointment, completing a small task, or choosing needed rest can all say, fear will not run this day. So stop performing. Stop measuring yourself every few minutes. Stop waiting for a perfect emotion before you respond wisely. Receive help. Give thanks. Take the next step. And if the next step is small, take it without shame. If it requires courage, take it without boasting. If it is rest, receive it without guilt. Say it with me. My faith can be quiet and active. Again, I can be honest, patient, thankful, and responsible. Thank God, thanksgiving now has hands and feet. It is embodied confidence, not passive resignation. You prayed, now live from the trust expressed in that prayer. We are ready to gather the whole message into one response. Pressure giving way to rest. Rest opening into gratitude. And gratitude moving us into faithful participation. We began with a question. How can you thank God for healing while your body still tells you that nothing has changed? Now you know the answer. Your body may still report pain, but your heart can still turn toward God. Thanksgiving does not announce a sensation you do not feel. It announces where you have placed your trust. Honesty is not unbelief. Thanksgiving is not pretending. Persistence is not begging. Rest is not passivity. Receiving care is not betraying faith. Keep those distinctions clear, and the burden of performance begins to fall away. Here is the movement once more. Ask clearly. Entrust the outcome. Interrupt anxious checking. Speak honestly. Give thanks. Take the next responsible step. Ask. Entrust. Interrupt. Speak. Thank. Act. Now let us practice it together. You do not have to tell anyone around you what you feel. You do not have to make a public claim about your body. Simply acknowledge before God what is true in this moment. Father, you know what I feel. You know where it hurts. You know what frightens me and what has made me weary. I bring it to you honestly. Now entrust it. I place this need before you. I release the outcome from my anxious grasp. Give me wisdom for today and help me take the next faithful step. And now give thanks not for an invented sensation, but for the God who meets you where you are. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for remaining near. Thank you for strength when I feel weak, wisdom when I am uncertain, and care along the way. If you feel strong, give thanks without boasting. If you feel weary, give thanks without pretending. You do not have to match another person's volume, expression, or emotion. Bring your own honest voice. Say it with me. I can be honest and I can still trust. I have asked and I will not keep begging. I will receive wisdom and take the next responsible step. I will thank God before the feeling changes. Thanksgiving is trust, not theater. It is not a demand placed upon your emotions. It is not a performance offered to people. It is the practice language of a heart that has brought its need to God and chosen not to let fear carry it away again. So when the next painful moment comes, pause, acknowledge, remember, thank, act, Do not wait for perfect feelings. Do not manufacture a testimony. Do not condemn yourself for needing help. Turn toward God. Tell the truth. Receive care. Give thanks. Take the next wise step. And then rest. Let the striving become quiet. Let the checking stop for this moment. Let gratitude have the final word. Father, I trust you here. I thank you now. Amen.